Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Celtic Way morning briefing. My name is Ryan McGinlay, and today I'm joined by Tony Haggerty at Haggerty10 on the Twitter handle. Tony, how are you doing this morning?
Very well, yourself, Ryan?
Yeah, not too bad. Not been on for a couple of days, so just getting back into the swing of things and getting back into hosting duties, but all good. Thank you to everyone who's been in the comments so far. You know, your participation really helps us. But before we continue on with the show, if I could just get everyone to have a wee look at the ticker tape at the bottom of the screen. If you subscribe to the Celtic Way website, you'll be supporting top quality football journalism covering the club that you love. If you visit www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe, there's a couple of pieces on there from Tony this morning. There's scouting pieces from the past, analysis pieces from Alan Morrison, other opinion pieces and video features from me. So yeah, anything that you're looking for with regards to Celtic and Celtic media, it should be on there on celticway.co.uk. So if you are interested, then please give us a subscription. The current offer that we're doing just now is £4 for 4 months. So that works out at £1 a month. That would be you sorted to this next quarter of the season. If you are interested, then please give us a subscribe. It's good content on there and we would really appreciate it. It helps us continue to do these free videos throughout the year, really, and daily. So yeah, if you are interested, then please subscribe to us. Yeah, so Tony, there's been a bit of news breaking over the past sort of 24 hours, you would say, in different sectors. Obviously, we're going to talk about the transfer links to Daniel Podence, a player that I know quite well from watching Premier League football. But before we get on to maybe the positive side of things, we need to go into the negatives. And I would say, yeah, it's a bit of an annoying one after a great 20-minute cameo against Aberdeen, I would say, with Reo Hatate. He pulled up injured. We all kind of feared the worst. The Daily Mail, I think, are reporting that it's now going to be a month without Reo Hatate for a guy that's been. It's fair to say he's been in and out of things over the past couple of weeks or so. He's been on the bench. He's had to settle for a place on the bench while David Turnbull gets his chance in the starting lineup. But it couldn't have happened at a worse time for him, could it? This injury.
No, it couldn't, and it couldn't happen at a worse time for Celtic either. Just when he was beginning to kind of maybe show Brendan Rodgers why he was worthy of a place in the starting 11. I think most Celtic supporters would conjecture and argue that he is worth a place in the starting 11. Now, I've written a piece today, and it's on the website. I'll just put it in the comment section there if you fancy having a read of that. My thoughts on Reo Hatate. Nobody's disputing that he's arguably the best midfielder at the club and arguably the best midfielder in the country. Nobody's really disputing that. But, you know, Brendan Rodgers fired a warning shot to him, didn't he? To tell him basically what he had to do to become a regular fixture in his team and a regular starter. And I think and all sorts of people were making comments about lack of celebration with the goal against Bilbao, the walking past fans and all that, which is seemingly equated to he's unhappy, he's desperate to leave, his body language, all this kind of stuff. I'm no expert in these things, Ryan, and the only body language that really concerns me is the one on the football field. And what I do know is he's a highly technically gifted footballer, and whenever he takes to the field, he certainly shows his worth. And I think maybe, as I said at the start of the season, the manager was just making a wee statement, just sort of saying, look, you're not guaranteed a place in my 11. You have to prove yourself and do certain things for me. So, as I say, you never know any player's situation or what he's thinking unless they let you into that inner sanctum of their mind and come out and tell you. As regards the injury, it's quite disappointing. Very disappointing to be without him for a month. But again, if that's the case, and maybe you can look at it two ways, will teams want to sign an injured player? So maybe you've got until January at the very earliest. If that's the case, it might ward potential buyers off. And then if that is the case, then I'd rather he was fit for the Champions League qualifiers. Just don't take any risk with him at all. And he's desperate to play again in the Champions League qualifiers. He already said that, didn't he? In his comments in the summer when he was asked about challenges, and he sort of said he would, the challenge would maybe be playing in the Premier League, and people have latched onto that. But he also said he'd like to play in the Champions League again. And as I've said in that piece, not many teams are going to offer him Champions League football out with Celtic at this moment in time. So if he's desperate to play at that level again, then get yourself fit for that level again, because he's a wonderful contributor. I know your thoughts on him you love him, hero worship and all that, best player at the club stuff. But you know what I mean? I'm just looking at it logically and sensibly and say, the guy's injured at this minute, he's going to miss a month of football. You've got the Champions League coming up in the next few weeks. Get him fit for that. Did I say the qualifiers? Thomas
Yeah, you
Gallagher
said
said,
qualifiers. I
was
think
I?
I know
Sorry.
what you meant with regard to the group
Yeah,
stages.
sorry, I meant group stages. Yeah, sorry, Thomas. You're a wonderful bunch, aren't you? You miss nothing. Group stages, obviously, is what I meant straight in. So get him fit for that, and bitterly disappointed to see him coming out the team due to injury, because he looked the part. He's looked the part since he came on in both matches. Let's be honest, but we all know that anyway. So he's as I say, he's a tremendously gifted footballer, and we know what he brings to the party. So yeah, just get fit for the Champions League and take it from there, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a player that you'd be desperate for Celtic to play in the Champions League, because he can be the difference between a draw and a win, and a loss and a draw. You would say he's the difference maker. You've seen that even in the 20 minutes that he played against Aberdeen. That pass that he kind of just plucked out of nowhere. The technique that he's got to when he's got the ball at his feet is absolutely incredible, and I'm really gutted for him, because it seemed as if he came on for that 20 minutes and was desperate to make an impact and desperate to show that he was the starter, because make no two ways about it, David Turnbull was having an absolute shocker. I mean, he got taken off at half-time for that reason. The game was passing him by completely. I haven't been on since. I've not been on a sort of reaction since the game, but I think Matt O'Reilly was doing the job of three players in that first half especially. It was not a great midfield performance, and then when Hatate came on, it was the difference.
Yeah, I agree totally with that. I think words like shocker for Turnbull are, I don't know, I just think he didn't hit the heights that he played against Ross County, did he? He slipped below the kind of high bar that he'd set in pre-season, and sometimes it's not your kind of game. But looking at it, and I did think that the manager would play the same team, but it became quite apparent in that first half that it wasn't working, hence the change at half-time. And Turnbull was the change you would have made, because you needed Hatate to come on and do what he did, albeit it was for 20 minutes. But it certainly Celtic get a firmer grip in the midfield. And I agree with you about Matt O'Reilly. I thought Matt O'Reilly was pretty imperious on Sunday. He was the best player on the park by quite a considerable distance. But I also made the point on Monday, and I made it on Sunday when we spoke about myself and Eden, that I thought Thiago Holm's cameo was terrific as well. He wasted nothing, and there was only one attempted pass that never found its target when it was cut out, when he was trying to slip the ball through. Intention was there, the execution just fell short, but I loved what I've seen of him, and then I wrote about him yesterday saying, that he should start against Kilmarnock. I stand by that. I stand by him that more now that Hatate's out the team. Just give him a kind of run at that and see how it goes. As for Turnbull, I think he had a poor game. Shocker. I hesitate to use words like, but that's your opinion. That's fine. And you're allowed to say that. That's cool. But I just think he fell below a kind of standard he'd set pre-season and in the first game of the season, which is why hence he came off. The manager noticed that as well. Matt O'Reilly was excellent. Callum McGregor I thought he was quiet for McGregor. So, but I'm, as I say, I'm quite intrigued by Odin Thiago Holm. Want to see more of him, and he could maybe step into the breach now that you've not got Hatate. You might ask him to come in, and I know he's a young boy, but he looks very, very cool and calm and collected on the ball. Again, he looks like a player that's played a lot of league games, He played nearly 100 games in Norway, and we said he's made that move at the right time. So I'm intrigued to see what he brings to the table. Other people saying that he shouldn't be risked on that kind of surface, but I think he'll be bursting to play and show the manager what he's got.
Yeah, he's definitely. I think that's definitely the right word for Odin Thiago Holm. He intrigues you. This guy's very much the new kid in the block. He seems to be sort of the bad boy as well with some of the stuff that he does. He's definitely not been. But I like that as well. I like that in certain ways, because you need a bit of character for a midfielder. He's going to take his chance when it comes. Do you think that with Hatate's injury, it's now a window of opportunity for him to make his impact.
Without a doubt. On the off-the-field stuff, Ryan, I'd rather Daddy's talking on the pitch. Leave the off-the-field stuff, and I see he took that tweet down. I mentioned that in the piece.
Yeah, the Instagram post.
The Instagram post, sorry, yeah. And it got taken down. Whether that was a word in his lug, a word in his shell, he's acted upon that and wisely did that. You want to be known for your footballing ability, Ryan, not for what you do off the pitch in terms of your social media. And I think Celtic supporters are intrigued by what they see in the football park. It can park the social media stuff, leave it to others to do that kind of thing. Just concentrate on your football, because what an opportunity you do have now to try and make an impact in that first team. And the manager likes him. The manager called him a fantastic footballer with an edge. Don't ever want to take that away from any footballer, that edge. And if Brendan Rodgers is saying you're fantastic and you will show your talents in time at a club like Celtic, then, again, your ears kind of rise up, don't you? You listen to that. And he's only been there a few months. But even before when he signed, he was talking about the Champions League games. I love that kind of attitude, Ryan. This was a guy who's thinking, time they roll along, I'll maybe be in the team and I'll be there and thereabouts. That's confidence in a young player. So I think with Hatate being injured, this is a wonderful opportunity for Odin Thiago Holm, if selected, to come in and say, right. And he looks a player, when I saw him on Sunday, took the ball in all sorts of situations, noticed it against Bilbao as well, was calm under pressure, with guys around him, and still found the target. And that edge, a young player with an edge, Ryan, give me that any day of the week. Who can mix it and do things. And yeah, I'm just excited to see what else he can offer.
Yeah, he's looking like a steal at 2 million already, I would say, due to the potential that he no doubt has. And that potential, I feel like a lot of teams knew that potential was there. Maybe he's lost his way. Maybe he's I don't know. I don't know what his form was like with regard to Valerenga. Maybe it was because he wasn't playing for a top team in Norway that he kind of got lost in the pack. But in a more possession-heavy team like Celtic are, he's allowed to go and showcase his ability and showcase his skills. The one thing I noticed when I got a proper look at him in the Aberdeen game, he seems to be really quick dribbler of the ball with the ball at his feet, which is going to get him places for sure. Yeah, his off-field stuff is a bit iffy. He could have been better advised. He could have picked a better Kendrick Lamar song, to be honest, as well, with regard to the lyrics. But it's one of those ones that you'll learn from it. I think it shows you with regard to that Instagram post, especially, he's not got his own PR team. He's doing his own PR, and maybe that would be a sound investment to bring somebody else in to do his social media for him. There's so many football players that do that now, and that's how they avoid these pitfalls. It's such easy pitfalls to fall into, because these things are they're taken by the media and put as headlines almost instantly after you do them. And once they're on the public domain, they're very, very difficult or impossible to get out. So yeah, it's one of those ones he'll learn. He's only 20 years old. He definitely acts like a 20-year-old sometimes, but on the football field, he acts like a 25, 26-year-old with some of his performances. I think the sky's the limit for him. You instantly get a feel for a player when you watch him. You're like, he looks a good player. Now, I've said that 3 or 4 times now when Odin Thiago Holm has played a game, so it must be consistent. He must have something about him. These aren't just cameos. This is consistent play that's going to go on for months. I'm really looking forward to seeing more of him. Is there anything else you want to add with regard to Odin Thiago Holm?
Well, I think if Celtic get the player that was on UEFA's, was it Golden Boys list or something
Golden
like
Boy,
that?
yeah.
Yeah, I think Celtic kind of have one to watch, because this is a young, hungry, desperate player to make, wanting to make his mark, and I think you'll show why he was on that Golden Boy list in the fullness of time. Brendan Rodgers certainly thinks that too. As I say, he's that fantastic footballer with an edge, and you just know Brendan's eyes are lighting up at this. This is somebody that he can get his claws into, like Matt O'Reilly, like David Turnbull. Listen to me, I'll take you where you want to go, but you need to listen and learn, and came away with that great statement about Matt O'Reilly as well. The more you learn, the more you earn. These guys, it's the old golfing analogy, isn't it? Drive for show, putt for dough. So he's just like, right, you listen to me. If you've got a career plan, I'll take you closer to that. But while you're here, you will be performing at the highest club level in the Champions League, and you'll be asked to perform at a level and an intensity that you've probably never experienced anywhere else in your career. Spoke about it yesterday. That demand, that insatiable appetite to win, not just come from a team that wins one in every 3 or 4 matches, a win, a loss, a draw, that kind of thing. Spoke about that yesterday when we were talking about Quinton Merlan. You're coming to a team that the demands are they're off the charts, but you develop habits, career habits that are formed for the rest of your career, where you become an out-and-out winner, where success is just a demand that you place upon yourself. And I think Celtic's a wonderful place for that. There's only certain players' mindset can cope with that. I think Odin Thiago Holm is somebody that Brendan Rodgers had a look at and can mould, and he's malleable, and he will mould him into the player that both he and Thiago Holm want to be. So if you're not on a golden boy list for nothing, you don't lose it. You don't know what's happened with Vålerenga, but Celtic have got him now, and I think Celtic will exploit whatever talent that he has and bring it to the fore. And I'm just excited about that. I'm trying to keep a rein on it, Ryan, but I just want to see a young guy go out there and shackles off. Let's see what you got.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more of him as his career passes with Celtic. 20 years old, he fits the bill for a player that Celtic can bring in, sort of bed into the first team, get 2-3 solid years out of him, and sell him on for profit. That's the policy. As long as you're comfortable with the policy, then you'll be comfortable knowing that there'll be players coming in to replace those players as well. It's been a really sort of busy rumour mill, you would say, over the past 24-48 hours, especially with regard to Premier League players or players that were playing in the Premier League. The first one that we could probably talk about, I think we should talk about Ryan Fraser first, because that isn't as big a rumour as maybe the Daniel Podence one, but the Ryan Fraser link isn't going away. He's a homegrown player. He used to play for Aberdeen. He's not got a squad number at Newcastle United at this present point, so it looks very much as if he's on the way out of Newcastle. I've got to be honest, if I put my own personal opinion on it, I don't really think this would be the best move. Now, I know he's a decent player, and he has done it down south for Newcastle and for Bournemouth before then under Eddie Howe, but yeah, 29 years old. I just think that the money and the potential wages could be going on someone younger and better elsewhere. But I just want to gauge your opinion on it. What do you think about Ryan Fraser? He's been a decent Premier League player, but at 29 years old, you'd maybe only be getting 2-3 years max out of him.
I think certain players, when they're linked with a club, excite you, Ryan, and certain players don't. See that yourself, I'm firmly on the fence on this one. I'm neither up and I'm neither down. If the manager believes that Ryan Fraser can add something, then I'm going to bow to that. If the rumours and links aren't going away, then there's maybe something in them. It doesn't enamour me greatly, but it doesn't disappoint me greatly either. It's one of them kind of meh, isn't it? And if he comes in and he does a job, then I'll tip my hat to the manager for that. So I'm going to go with the thought, if this is a player that the manager really, really wants to come in, and all the kind of circumstances are right, and he comes in, then I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But, there's some links that are more exciting than others. Ryan Fraser, I think, is not someone who immediately springs to mind as a player that you want at the club. But again, if someone higher up than me and has more knowledge than me wants him, i.e. the Celtic manager, Brendan Rodgers, then I'll bow down to that. But I spoke with Aidan about him briefly yesterday, and I'm like you. At 29, I'm not sure if it's worth the investment, and I would prefer them to go for somebody younger. But again, I'm not privy to what the scouting and recruitment department and the manager are looking for. So if Ryan Fraser is someone that we're looking for and is a person of interest, then they might have ask the question of him, and if everything can be sorted, then he might well end up being a Celtic player. But as I say, I'm neither up nor down with it. It doesn't make me run about daft, Ryan, but it doesn't depress me either, let's be honest.
It doesn't make you run about daft either way, out of happiness or out of anger. Very much a middle of the road signing. Yeah, I would probably agree with that. I'm maybe more on the negative side, but I think that's a holistic sort of point of view, because I've seen what he's like. Sometimes the off the field sort of attitude things. I remember at Bournemouth, he kind of went on strike when he didn't get a move. I remember him falling out with Eddie Howe because of that, and then they found themselves together again at Newcastle. I don't know if there was a video going about of his sort of discipline at Newcastle too, but I think maybe the interesting thing about Ryan Fraser, if that was to get over the line, was the fact that he's sort of reverted into this sort of winger / left back role. He has played at left back before. Now that could be a problem for Celtic, because he's in the unfortunate situation that he's a smaller man. He's a bit smaller than Greg Taylor as well, by about 3 or 4 inches. So Greg Taylor's height gets targeted by bigger teams. So that would be even more so if he was to play there. But yeah, he's did it in the not in the Champions League. He's did it in the Premier League. He's been a sort of regular for them for Bournemouth, and then been in and out the team for Newcastle. But I think Celtic could do better, and I think when we speak about the next player, that would be a player that would do a lot better, who has been a bit of a standout. Sorry, what you saying?
Just the last comment on this, and I agree with this to an extent from Brown Warrior. Back in the day, a player was considered in his prime between the age of 28 to 31, fully developing in the peak of their strength and stamina. Modern fans write players off too readily, in his opinion. You know what I mean? And I kind of agree with that, which is why I'm on the fence with it. He's 29. You say maybe a couple of good years left in him, and if that ticks a box for Brendan Rodgers, then so be it. It remains to be seen if indeed he does come. But I'm not at the stage where I'm going to completely write somebody like Ryan Fraser off if he comes in. If he does come in, I think I'll give him a chance, and I'll watch him with my own eyes. And like you, I've watched him as well, and so we'll see what happens with that. But if you're talking about the next guy who Celtic have been linked with, then some are equal than others, or some are more equal than others. This link is more equal than others, isn't it? It's one of those links where you kind of look at it and you think, okay, now you're talking. That's the caliber of player that we all like, and it kind of, your interest is really heightened.
What's the appetite? This one,
yeah.
I think.
When you see this one, and this is one for the Celtic dads out there, Ryan. I can't look at this guy's name without thinking of Dear Prudence by Susie and the Banshees. Dear Podence, as I keep singing in my head. So yeah, it'd be a great kind of song if he scores, if he ever signs for Celtic. But 12 million they say he's rated at, Ryan. But final year of his contract. Scored 6 goals last season. I think Celtic believe there's wriggle room there. Bearing in mind they shelled out 9 million for Odsonne Edouard. So possible double-figure million deal, possibly, or something round about then if they work on. But there seems to be interest there, and I know he'll excite you. I know you're an avid watcher of the English Premier League, and you'll know about him. He's fallen foul of the setup there, isn't he? He wasn't playing in the 1-0 defeat at Old Trafford on Monday night. So this might be one of those times, Ryan, where the stars align, isn't it? And you get a player of real quality because you've been in and about it. Right time, right player. And hopefully, if that's the case and Celtic are interested, then this is one you do hope they can, what's that phrase, Ryan, force it over the line.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all for recycling, and that can mean songs as well. We need another superstar from Portugal, and I would take that if it's Daniel Podence. 27 years old, 1 cap for Portugal. I think that came in 2020 when he was at sort of the height of his career. He's a really good outball for Wolves. He's kind of fallen foul with Lopetegui, but Lopetegui's out the door now. So I think it remains to be seen where he is actually going to fit in the Wolves team. He might still come back, and because Gary O'Neill's the new manager that's came in for Wolves. He used to be the Bournemouth manager last season before he was sacked for Areola, the manager that was linked with Celtic. I remember for a couple of weeks, the Vallecano manager. But yeah, he's now the new Wolves manager, and it'll be interesting to see if he fancies Podence really. 27 years old, I was talking about the age of Ryan Fraser. This one would probably make more sense with regard to the fact that he's very much in the prime of his career as a 27-year-old. He can make those comparisons with Scott Sinclair because he was 26, 27 when he joined the club. They both play in the same position, and I think they would both make a massive impact, like Sinclair did, but I think Podence would as well. He'd make an impact in Europe as well. It's a really, really exciting player. I actually thought he was a couple of years younger, so I was quite surprised when I looked at his age and he was 27. He's that sort of guy. He looks younger than he is, you could say. But yeah, a very, very exciting talent. 12 million, I think there is some wriggle room, especially with him being in the final year of his contract. I think if you put in a bid of 8-9 million, there might be room for negotiation on Wolves' part. But he is definitely a player that would excite the Celtic fans if he was to come through. Yeah, if this one was to happen, then I think it'd be a real statement of intent. I think he would, in the nicest possible way, tear things up here.
I think the next time, if Daniel Podence was to sign for Celtic, Ryan, I think the next time we see you, you'd be doing cartwheels along that kind of room for the
I'd need to learn how to do a cartwheel first, but yeah,
I'd
learn
for the first 5 minutes of the next broadcast, you know what I mean? So I know you're definitely excited with this, but yeah, you try and keep it in, but as I said, that there's some links excite you more than others. I'm just excited at the fact that Celtic are these are the kind of players that they're looking for. And I always thought in the last fortnight of the window, there would be movement with regards to like Premier League players as well. And I always I think the next, what we are, we're at the 17th, 16th of 2 weeks, just short of 2 weeks left of the window. I think this is where it starts to get interesting, and your kind of Premier League stars who maybe are out of favour, like Podence and all that, get asked questions by various clubs. Now, they're supposedly, Everton are supposed to be linked with them as well, but as I said yesterday, Celtic have got a lot to offer a player. Instant Champions League group stages, not qualifiers, Thomas, as I said earlier. So, instant Champions League group stage matches, put yourself in that kind of window again. And, if Celtic asks the question of Podence, then he's got something to answer, hasn't he? Everton can offer him Premier League football. Get that, that's fine, but he's been there, seen that, and done that. The carrot that Celtic have got is Champions League group stage football, where you're competing against the best, and you're also coming to be a success and win things, which I know Wolves have had what you would deem relative success in the past few years, haven't they? And they've been in Europe as well, but they've not competed at the Champions League group stages, and it's a big thing for players. A lot of them want to take their career to that stratosphere and taste the Champions League, to put it on their CV and say, I played in that environment. And if Podence is the guy, or Podence is the guy that Celtic want, then I would go all in to try and land him, because I think he could be a game changer at that stage, in that level, and he would, as you say, tear up the Scottish Premiership, methinks.
Yeah, I was just having a wee look at his stats there. He has actually played in the Champions League before. I believe it was a spell at Olympiacos that he played in the Champions League group stages. He's made quite a few appearances, so he does have that experience before. But a guy in the prime of his career at the age of 27, he'll be wanting to play Champions League football if he can every single year before his level just naturally declines. But I think especially in the domestic league, I mean, if you can score goals in the Premier League, then if you can translate that to the Scottish League, I think he could be a superstar up here, to be honest.
Yeah, and it just depends. What players are valued at in terms of the 12 million, but the last year of his contract, they're saying that he might not get anywhere near 12 million. So if that's the case, then I think Celtic should go all in, guns blazing, for this one if they really, really want him, and make that kind of a statement of intent signing, which everybody's hoping that Celtic will do before the window shuts. And I wasn't aware that he'd played in the Champions League group stages with Olympiacos. That's fair enough. That's knowledge to me. So if he's played there before, then he'll understand how good it is. And playing in the group stages with Olympiacos is one thing, but playing with Celtic in the Champions League group stages could be another. And that might be something that, he considers when he's weighing up his options, because he will be a wanted man, despite the fact he only got 6 goals last term. But I think you would be getting a player who would be determined and hungry to show that was a blip in terms of a season and want to wash Wolves out of his hair.
Do you know, 6 goals last season, that could be Wolves' like joint top goal scorer, by the way, because I don't know if you caught in.
Yeah, they averaged a goal a game, isn't it? Is that right? It's only
pretty
30,
much
31 goals. Yeah,
they had Diego Costa up front that was known for what age is he, 34, 35. He's just got no goals in his game whatsoever. I think they're one of their top goal scorers are come from their wingers. They don't really have strikers that put the ball in the back of the net. They used to with Jimenez, but I think since his injury, he's kind of declined a bit. So 5-6 goals is actually a pretty good return for a winger in that Wolves team. They're in desperate need for a striker. So maybe losing one of their top goal threats in Podence maybe isn't the best thing, but if he's not fancied, then, perhaps a move away would be the best thing for him. I don't think he's short of any money. He'll be on good Premier League wages down there. So if Celtic can offer a pretty penny for him in terms of wages, but not break the bank for him, then I think it'd be a really, really solid addition. I think a lot of Celtic fans, they want a Jota replacement. We've lost Jota, and I know that can be really, really difficult. But at the same time, nobody really knew what Jota was when he came in as well. He was a bit of an unknown quantity. So I think Celtic fans just want more of a finished article to come in and do the business, because we want somebody that can get double figures in goals and assists. It's difficult to replace, but Podence could be that person.
Getting a compatriot then, somebody for Portugal's a start, as you said. Then we work on the
superstar. It could be lazy scouting,
bit.
Tony, but
it could be lazy scouting. Yeah. Then you work on the superstar bit, don't you? But Daniel Podence, again, I go back to that. He seems to be a person of interest. And go and ask the question and see what his thoughts are and get him. I'm always of this opinion. Get Daniel Podence to tell you why he would like to come or why he doesn't want to come. It's like it. And because if the money's there and everybody's saying the money's there, and but Celtic still operate with certain financial parameters. Spoke about it the other day. I don't want to just sign somebody marquee for the sake of spending X amount of millions of pounds. This guy looks like he fits the bill. He's exciting the fans. He's an exciting target. So go and make sure, if you've done your due diligence, go and make sure that he wants to come. And if he wants to come, go and get him.
Yeah, absolutely. Celtic have got that money there. They've got the money sitting. We all know about that. This is the cons of when a club publicly announces to the London Stock Exchange that they're going to have a significant profit sort of margin or a profit window with regard to the Jota fee. So yeah, Celtic should put the money where their mouth is and get a quality replacement in for Jota, because I think it'll be the difference this season, in all honesty, in all competitions. As I say it every time I'm on, but double figures in goals and assists every season, that is very difficult to replace, unless a player like Maeda or Haksabanovic, who doesn't even look fancied at this point in time. If they come in and do that, then that's all good. But I think you need a direct replacement, and you need to put some money. You need to spend. You need to speculate to accumulate with these players, and I think if a player that can get a double goals and double assists in double figures rather, then Celtic would be doing something right.
Correct. Let's go to work on Daniel Podence then. So
yeah, That sounds good to
Sold,
me.
Ryan. Yeah, sold.
You sound like the auctioneer or something, but
Yeah.
I'll definitely take him. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how he would fit into the team. I think he would slot right in at left back, but I think he's quite mobile. He can play. I seem to remember him playing as a number 10 as well, so he's got that fluidity to play in whatever position. I like that in some ways, but in other ways, I like a player having just the one position that they know that they're good at, and that's where as a manager you're kind of forced to play them because they're no good anywhere else. You know, they're a standout in one position, so you just make that position their own. But if you've got two or three, then it can be ideal. Just before we move on to some of the other stuff that we're going to talk about, if I could just direct everybody once again to the bottom of the screen. We're currently doing £4 for 4 months on the Celtic Way website. So if you'd like to subscribe to us and support top quality football journalism, the website link is www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. £4 for 4 months. It's a really good deal that's on just now. And you'll be getting loads of good pieces from myself, from Tony, from Stuart Ross, from Alan Morrison, covering the club you love, basically. So if you're interested, then please give us a subscribe. I was going to talk about some of the other rumours. I feel like this should just be a transfer rumours show. It feels like 6 o'clock on Sky Sports News, the transfer show. Yeah, there was a bit of a. I feel like we are still in silly season with regard to this next link, but Eric Dier, that was a bit of a weird one to come out of nowhere. What was even more weirder for me, and I did tweet about this yesterday, was that people were saying they wouldn't take Eric Dier in their team. It's like, this guy's got 49 caps for England. He's played for Spurs in Champions League final. So yeah, I think this is a non-starter, but that would be very much a marquee signing if Celtic were to get that. I mean, we're laughing about it, so I think that shows about how much buying this guy it is, but if that was to be a potential avenue, then Celtic would take that, wouldn't they?
Tell you a story indirectly linking with Eric Dier. I was in pre-season with Murrow in Portugal. Somewhere in the depths of Portugal, nowhere near Lisbon, but Ryan Gauld signed for Sporting Lisbon. So I got a phone call.
I seem to remember you telling me this.
A phone call at 2:00 in the afternoon. Get yourself to Lisbon, which was like, I'm talking planes changing automobiles, right? Ramshackle trains and all that. And I'm like, why? And they're like, well, Ryan Gauld signed for Sporting Lisbon. Go up to the training ground in the morning and see if you can get him. I'm like, okay. So it was like 7 or 8 hours away by 3 trains or something. I'm in the middle of nowhere, don't know how to get there, end up having to ask somebody how to get to Lisbon. Basically, it's 1, 2, 3 trains, right? Work it out how I can get there. Got to Lisbon about midnight, but that's neither here nor there. So on the train journey there, they're saying, see if you can get a hold of Eric Dier to speak about Ryan Gauld. So, unbeknown to me, Sporting Lisbon were worse than kind of Celtic with their PR. They never let players speak. So, I tried to get Eric Dier, but I eventually got Eric Dier's father, who was a tennis player, played Wimbledon back in the 60s or early 70s, I think, or played in some rounds of Wimbledon. So, I said to Eric Dier's dad, look, any chance of speaking to Eric Dier about Ryan Gauld? And he was like, Tony, I'd love to, but the club would just come down heavy on him, And he said, what do you want to know? He says, do you know my background? I was like, no. And he was telling me about the tennis thing. And I was, all right, great. And he said, Eric's first piece of advice to Ryan Gauld would be learn Portuguese, learn the lifestyle, fit in with the locals. You'll do really well, settle in and all that, right? So fine. And never ever got to speak to Eric Dier, sadly. But sort of thought, okay, that's decent stuff. Got to Lisbon at midnight. I checked into the hotel about 1 o'clock in the morning. Woke up at 7. Went to Sporting Lisbon's training ground. Went by the security guard and there was a guy standing. I thought, that's weird. So taxi took me right up and then walked to the training ground and then was escorted from the premises by like Portuguese heavies telling me in no uncertain terms in Portuguese to go somewhere, and it wasn't polite. So taxi driver was like, Tony, you better leave. It's all going to kick off. So I drove back to the entrance, and it turns out the guy that was standing was a guy called Victor, who I'd been dealing with as a journalist, who was telling me that Sporting Lisbon PR was terrible and would never get to speak to Eric Dier. And so we're standing there, and I got a phone call to tell me, don't know why you're in Lisbon. Ryan Gauld was flying into Edinburgh. that very moment, Ryan Gauld was in Edinburgh coming to say he signed his deal with Sporting Lisbon. So yeah, and more's the pity that I never got to speak to Eric Dier. I wanted to speak to him, but whenever I see Eric Dier's name, I always kind of laugh and think, I had a conversation with your dad, which is great. And but there are links you think to yourself, wow. But I mean, Brendan Rodgers has sort of said that he wanted experienced players as well, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think for a minute that Eric Dier would ever come off in terms of coming to Celtic, but stranger things have happened, haven't they? It's just you kind of think to yourself, no, and you laugh, and you think you'd be on an astronomical wage. But you know what? I'm kind of like, okay, I'm open to everything, and I go with the manager on that. In terms of if Eric Dier's somebody that he thinks can improve the side, and he would improve the side, he'd walk straight into the side.
He'd be one of the first
49
things in the
sides for
team,
England. So and that's what makes it kind of ludicrous. But how many times you thought a transfer link's ludicrous, and it was.
To be fair, I thought Brendan Rodgers coming back was ludicrous. So I'm very much a dreamer this transfer window. It's not really transpired like that, but I'm very much a dreamer when it comes to the transfer window. It'd be interesting if that was, and you're just playing devil's advocate here, really, and it is very much a silly season rumour, but if it was to come off, you'd be wanting to play him in midfield in his best position. I remember he started off his career as a defensive midfielder. I think he's quite limited as a defender in terms of his brute defending, but I do think he's got a good range of pass on him. So if he was to play in that defensive midfield role, then he would take no prisoners whatsoever in that position. It'd be very much a marquee signing. I don't think he would get him permanently. I think it'd be very much a loan to get him back on his feet, because he doesn't seem to be fancied under Postecoglou at Spurs, but he would get game time up here for sure. And he was a first team player when Cameron Carter-Vickers was playing for every single championship team on loan when he couldn't get a game for Spurs. So he must have something about him. 49 times for England. You're not a bad player if you play for England. They've got a really talented squad, and if he's played 49 times for them, then he must have something about him. So
I'd love to see him here, Ryan. I'd love to speak to him eventually, you know what I mean? Spoke to family members that know him. But yeah, I mean, he would have plenty to offer, wouldn't he? Let's be honest. It's, you laughed when you you were kind of hesitant to mention the link. But I don't know, it is kind of one of those that's come right out the blue, hasn't it? But I look at it and he ticks that experience box, doesn't he? He ticks that kind of player that would just walk into your side, would improve you. And, for the Champions League, they're the kind of players that you're looking for, aren't they? And will it come off? Goodness knows, probably not. But it's that kind of, I'm kind of liking the way the thinking is behind it. I can see where they're going with it, and I can see where he would come in and do a job. And you don't play that amount of years and play for England, one short of the half century of games for your country if you can't play football, Ryan. Bottom line, and I would welcome Eric Dier, I've got to be honest. I think he'd be wonderful, but I just can't see it. So I'm trying not to get too worked up about that one.
Yeah, I don't think at the same time, I don't think I would get too worked up thinking about Eric Dier, to be honest. Just doubt that player. He's a solid, bit of an uninspiring player, but he's solid. He would definitely do a job for Celtic if he was to get brought into proceedings. But yeah, I'd want him to fulfil that sort of prophecy of you speaking to him, after all your travelling. I think that'd be a great happy ending.
He owes me a day in my life, which I'm not getting back.
Maybe he can be on the top 5 Celtic moments after that'd be a way you could get him. If he's got top 5 Celtic moments after a season, then he'll be doing something right. But I was just thinking to sort of round this sort of transfer rumours day off, we could talk about something that we know is going to be concrete, sort of bring it back full circle. It seems very much that it's a matter of when rather than if with regard to Gustaf Lagerbielke, Baron Gustaf Lagerbielke,
Yes.
to you and I. He played at the weekend for his team for Elfsborg in a 1-0 defeat. I'm not sure exactly who he was playing against, but he played in a 1-0 game, and that seems to be very much like his last game for his club before making the move to Celtic. It'd be a club record for Elfsborg. I think it's 40 million Swedish krona. You know, people are asking for Celtic to spend all the millions. We spent 40 million on a player. Yes, it's in Swedish krona, but you've got to take it when it comes. You know what I mean? That's a significant outlay in terms of Swedish money. So yeah, it's looking very much like a when rather than an if. And you know, I think the quicker the better with regard to, you know, Carter Vickers coming off injured. That it looks precautionary, but at the same time, he's just coming back from an injury. You don't want to be pushing Carter Vickers too much early on in this season. So if you can bring somebody in that can come in straight away and play first team football as he has been doing for Elfsborg, then I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, Brendan Rodgers seemed to be very confident on Sunday that he would have something to announce this week.
Mm-hmm.
Players in Glasgow seems to be a record fee, transfer fee agreed 3 million. So I would expect that to be announced sooner rather than later. Gustaf Lagerbielke, or Baron, as he might be known now as. So yeah, I hope Celtic do announce that. And yeah, he has been playing. So if everything's well, do you throw him in on Sunday beside Nurowski? Or
It's
do
a bit
you
of
keep Welsh and Nurowski there? And that's a big question.
Navrovsky. I thought Navrovsky personally, I know there was a bit of criticism for him online, but I thought he was absolutely tremendous. I don't think he could have done anything for that goal because it's Carter Vickers' mistake at the end of the day, and it's a good run in from Miovski. But apart from that, I don't think he put a foot wrong at Pataudry. I thought when Carter Vickers went off, he immediately took the role as leader in the back line, and he asserted himself really well for a 22-year-old. You know, he's still making his way in the team. He is going to have some parts of his game that he needs to work on. I think he's still to catch up fully with regard to his pace. I think he will get a wee bit faster as the weeks go on. But in terms of his first couple of performances, I've been really, really impressed with him. But I've got to give a special shout out to Stephen Welsh because I thought he was tremendous when he came on. He had a job to do when Carter Vickers came off the park, and he did it. You know, Celtic didn't concede any more goals when he was on the park, so that's a success. He kept for him a personal clean sheet. I know the team didn't keep a clean sheet, but when he was on the pitch, no goals were because of him or his defence. So I think that was a real success. You know, Stephen Welsh. I'm not sure about his long-term future at Celtic. It seems as if Brendan Rodgers is pretty sure with regard to him playing 40 games a season. I don't know how that would happen if he's going to get maybe 20 or so games off the bench, but you know, it seems as if Brendan Rodgers really rates him. He sees something in him. He was saying he took him out on pre-season tour when he was in manager the first time around. That must have been in 2018, his last sort of year. But yeah, I thought he had a really good performance against Aberdeen given the circumstances. But I would like to see somebody else coming in with regard to your sort of Lagerbielke. That would be. I don't know about throwing him straight in at Rugby Park, but then again, you know, if you're signing for Celtic and you've been playing games for Elfsborg, then I think now is as good a time as ever to be playing your debut. I know it's a plastic pitch, but at the same time, you know, I'm sure I'm actually not too sure if there's any plastic pitches in Sweden. I presume so because of the way the climate is up there, but. Yeah, he's definitely a player that can come in and immediately make an impact, especially with regard to headers from a corner, because you know he'd already be our tallest outfield player if he was to make his debut.
Yeah, so that Celtic fully expect to announce Lagerbielke before the weekend, don't they? Whether he plays or not, or he might be on the bench and feature, just to give him a feel for it. But you know, you might think Rugby Park with that surface is too much of a risk. Also, Welsh and Nurowski did really well together on Sunday at Pataudry in the second half when Cameron Carter-Vickers went off. Still don't know the extent of Cameron Carter-Vickers, injury and how lengthy that layoff will be. But that's the question that will be posed of Brendan Rodgers if Celtic do sign Lagerbielke before the weekend. Do you throw him straight in? I mean, he'll be fit, won't he? Because he's been playing games and probably fitter than most of the Celtic players because they'll have played quite a few games by this point in the season, won't they? The Swedish lads. So yeah,
halfway through the season.
Yeah, so
It's a positive.
So that ticks a box, doesn't it? Whether you risk him in a cup tie when you're putting your treble on the line at a place like Rugby Park is another consideration, isn't it? But again, I'm sure the manager's got all that in hand. But we hope to see Lagerbielke. He's in the country, so I think, as you say, that's a matter of if not when he puts pen to paper for Celtic and you take it from there. But from the clips you've seen and from what you've read about him and also his heading prowess at corners, that's all major box ticking, isn't it, Ryan? So, and gives you that extra layer of security at the back of the pack.
Yeah, as much as he seems like a project in some ways, in other ways he's very much one of the highest rated talents in Sweden, especially defensively. So you would be bringing in a decent player, especially for the fee that they're looking at. Was it 2.9 million in terms of pounds? So yeah, it's a good outlay for a player that maybe doesn't expect to be first choice instantly, but will sort of make his way into the team. And with that position in centre back, you're always going to need at least two, or sometimes three if you play three at the back. So there will be opportunities for him to play. That's when everybody's fit. And then when people are injured, then he can make his way in and out of the team. So I'm sure he will get loads of game time this season if and when he signs. Just quickly going on to the rumour that was going about yesterday or the day before, Quinton Merlin. I know that you and Aidan spoke about him at length yesterday. I think for me personally, Celtic really do need a left back. I think that's a position that they really do need to strengthen in. I think it's becoming. You don't want to slate players too much, but I think Taylor's really struggling in this team just now, and I think it's becoming very obvious. And especially in the game at Pittodrie, and I don't want to slate him because he's had a great 2 seasons at Celtic to sort of re-establish his Celtic career. He was in and out of the team in the 2020-21 season along with Diego Laxalt, but he really made his name for 2 years under Ange Postecoglou. But yeah, I think this sort of the fact that he's reverting back into a traditional fullback, I think his frame and his style of play doesn't really suit that as much when playing for Celtic, a possession-heavy team. And maybe it might be just down to competition as well. You might need somebody in there to push him. And you've seen that with James Forrest when Patrick Roberts came through the door. Competition breeds success, and you may get a push and a shove in the right direction. But Quinton Merlin, I'm not sure that's exactly how you pronounce it. I'm guessing it's like Merlan, but he's been playing for Nantes. He's one of their academy products. Seems like a good player, under 21 international for France. There was a quoted fee of 6, 7, 8 million, round about that fee. So yeah, it'd be a significant outlay, but he'd be coming in to start with that amount of money spent on him, wouldn't he?
I would have thought so, yeah. And again, I mean, myself and Aidan spoke about him yesterday, so I agree that Taylor has struggled to adapt to Brendan Rodgers' system at this minute. It's still very early, but 2 years of playing, there was a template for him, the way he played for 2 years, and that template's been kind of ripped up, hasn't it? And he's been asked to do something different. So, yeah, he's had 2 poor games by Taylor's high standard, but bearing in mind he set such a really high standard in the past couple of years. So, whilst I would like to see somebody like Merlin coming in and offering real stiff competition to Taylor, I wouldn't write Taylor off at any juncture because he's shown he's a gifted footballer and was a vital cog in that Celtic team for 2 years under Ange Postecoglou. Tweaks to the system, takes players a wee while to adapt and adjust, especially when all you've known for 2 years is just playing a certain way with the inverted fullback role. So having to convert back to a more traditional left back is maybe something he's trying to get his head around at the minute. But I'm all for players coming in and identifying positions where Celtic can increase the competition for places, and that's one that I think if you canvass the Celtic supporters, they would say needs strengthened. And if you're looking at Taylor's performances over pre-season and in the 2 games in the league so far, they've been poor, but they've been poor by his very, very high standard, which he set for himself in the past 2 years. So, but as you say, if you're shelling out 7 million or in the region of that for someone like Quinton Merlin, you're not shelling it out for him to sit on the bench, are you?
No, very, very much so. I think if you are shelling that money out, he'll be the starter in the team. You know, I think his pedigree speaks for himself. He's virtually never present for Nantes in Ligue 1. He's a French under-21 international. We'd be looking to. I don't know if he'll be making the senior squad. You know, you see there's this sort of glass ceiling when it comes to French players, where a lot of them will play for the under-21 team and then never make an appearance for the senior team. You could say the same for Dembele and for Edward and that. But they were both really good contributors for France's under-21 team. Yeah, I think it is a position, and I think it's a position that would maybe spell more danger for the likes of Bernabei, if I'm being honest. Whereas I think Taylor's a very much a trusted member of the team. He's a good mouthpiece for the team in terms of getting the manager's instructions across. You've seen that under Ange Postecoglou. I'm sure it'll be the same under Brendan Rodgers, but I think the inconsistency in Bernabei's game, coupled with the fact that, you know, there's been a couple of off-field incidents, ill discipline, I don't know about you, but it just doesn't seem as if it's really working out for him. We had the Athletic Club game in which he put in a good performance, but it's just that unpredictability. And I did mention it in my.
But I think Brendan Rodgers addressed that on Sunday, and he spoke very warmly about Alexandre Bernabei in terms of he can't question his professionalism and all, but something happened on the day of the first team meeting or the first game. His alarm clock didn't work, and he was very jocular about it. He said, "Have you had a word with Bernabei?" And he said his alarm clock's working now, all that kind of stuff, and just to kind of take the sting out of it. And he said, "You move on." He said, "But you can't afford to, you know, be late. Be late in a game. Game could be gone." You know, there's a serious message there to Bernabei in terms of kind of that's it. You know, no more. It doesn't happen again. And I don't know. There was something in me that thought that you might actually see Bernabei on Sunday.
Yeah,
because of Taylor's poor start to the season, so I could be wrong in that, but it's just the way he kind of he wasn't really stern about Bernabei as I thought he might have been. He was very kind of, and he mentioned the point that he felt for him, so he clearly put the arm around him and said, "Look, you've made a major mistake here, but come on, you know, this is it. You've got a real chance here. You know, knuckle down, prove to me, because you've had a decent pre-season," and he did have a decent pre-season. You know, he scored the wonderful goal in Japan where he chased the boy down for 1,000,000 yards, and then he scored a cracking goal against Atletico Bilbao. So, you know, if he had in his mind, you know, Alexandro might have a chance of starting one of these games, either Ross County or Aberdeen, then, you know, his mind was made up when he doesn't turn up for the first team meeting.
Yeah, he doesn't help himself.
Yeah, he doesn't help himself. So he might have squandered an early opportunity there. So, but I think he seemed to be in a kind of forgiving mood on Sunday with when he spoke about Bernabei. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him play on Sunday, just for the fact that, you know, Taylor has been slightly off the boil since the season started. So I you know, my starting 11 for Sunday might be another one of those. Have to go to the drawing board and really sit and think about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors that will come
You know,
into
there's
play.
a lot, so, and I wouldn't rule that one out. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be an interesting lineup. Still strong, I would believe, but I think that's something we can get into as the week goes on. We're only at Wednesday and it's Sunday before the game. That feels like such a long time, the 7 days. I'd quite like a wee midweek game in between to sort of get our teeth stuck into more Celtic,
Yeah,
because we want to see more and more of this team. We want to see how this team improves over the coming weeks and months, but we'll have plenty of time to talk about them. That's us been going for nearly an hour, Tony. That's absolutely flowing. And I don't know about you, but talking about Celtic, talking about
can't
Eric
believe
Dyer's dad
that. Yeah, Eric Dyer's dad. Yeah, indeed.
and Ryan Gauld and Sporting Lisbon, But there is that link. You were talking about Sporting Lisbon. Daniel Podence has played for Sporting Lisbon as
Yeah,
well. The world of football is a very small place. Like, these things put
still
themselves out.
scarred by that trip, Ryan, on those trains where I didn't even know if I was heading to Lisbon and I was going in the right direction. So I was there was real panic. So when I spoke to an English voice at the end of the phone, it was kind of like, oh, salvation. It just happened to be Eric Dyer's dad, And I was kind of saying to him, am I on the right track here? And I think I was telling him where I was headed, and I think he kind of reassured me that I was certainly heading in the right direction to
Yeah.
the capital. I wouldn't speak to anyone I got there, but he was like, good luck with it all, So there you go. So, but hey, I got there. Got
You
there
got
in
here.
one piece, but I didn't get any words and get flung out their training ground. So yeah, and like physically
It's all about these experiences. It's all about these learning
physically
experiences.
manhandled, right? I thought these guys mean business. I'm off. The Portuguese taxi driver who did speak English was like translating, and the words weren't good. So I thought, no, that was a case when the reporter made his excuses and left. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. But at least you're back in one piece and you're doing the briefing with me this morning. So
Correct.
that's the main thing. Just before we finish off, guys, once again, if I could just direct everybody's attention once again to the bottom of the screen. If you subscribe to the Celtic Way website, you'll be supporting top quality football journalism covering the club you love. We're currently doing £4 for 4 months of content. If you subscribe, it really helps us do the free content that we do on the YouTube channel. And if you are interested in keeping up to date with everything Celtic Way, then please subscribe to the Celtic Way YouTube and click the notification bell. If you do that, then you'll be notified whenever we go live, either with pre-recorded videos or with live shows such as this one. But if you are interested in our written content, then please visit us on www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe and get a good offer that's on just now with the £4 for 4 months. Get articles from myself, from Tony, from Aidan. You'll also get pieces from Alan Morrison, Duco James, Stuart Ross with his scouting pieces, along with a host of other content and contributors. So if you are interested, then please do take out a subscription. It really does help us. All that's left for me to say is, Tony, thank you very much for joining me this morning.
Pleasure. Appreciate it.
And thank you, everybody in the comments section, for getting involved. We'll be back tomorrow. I think it will be Aidan and myself talking about everything to do with Celtic and the current Celtic news. But thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Have a good rest of your day and enjoy whatever you do. Cheers.